people want to set resolutions, and why do you think we might not do well at them?
I think it's a societal or a cultural pressure. It's kind of like a tradition now.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, you have to set a goal for
Yeah.
yourself.
Right.
In the new
What are
year.
you going to do? Yeah. New
Because
year, new
everyone
you.
else is doing it, you know.
Yeah. I think social media adds to that pressure, too. I think for some people, it helps keep them accountable when they post to social media or something like that. But then I think, like how even at the end of the year, you see highlight reels for everyone, and then with posting resolutions, you see everyone post those, and so you want to be part of that. I think it's also a desire, like I think part of that is our desire to have community, because even if we talk about how we don't want it, we're built for community, we're designed for it, and social media, sometimes people use that as a way to get it, even though it's not true community a lot of the time.
Well, I'm really glad that we get to start off our podcast season this year. I'm glad that you guys can be here with me talking, and I'm excited for the new year. I don't know how yours is, end of the year went, and how you guys are feeling for the beginning of this year.
I feel pretty good about this year. There's a lot of new challenges ahead, but it's always good to have a new challenge, and that means growth. So
yeah, it's true. With change comes growth if we allow it. Mm-hmm. So I am excited for the new year. I don't know about you, Taylor.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the new year. I think there's a lot of things that have been on my mind, especially at the end of 2023, and just considering the things that are going to happen in 2024. Yeah. I think growth is going to be a theme for me in 2024.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I do tend to reflect at the end of the year a little bit. So this year I didn't do as much yet as I'd like to do for the reflection of 2023, but I know 2023 was a very full year. Did you guys feel that as well?
Definitely. I felt it was full personally for me and work-wise as well. Just, I think personally, we started going to a new church, so all the things that come with that.
Yeah.
And then even my role even transitioned a little bit more. I feel like I added more responsibility to my role as well. And that's been really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, there was quite a bit of change for you this year. So that's, like you said, with the change comes growth and new possibilities. So that was exciting. It's been exciting to watch you step into that too. Yeah. How about you, Chloe? Do you feel like it's been a full year, a busy year for you, or past year?
Yeah, like it has been a very busy year.
Yeah.
Adapting to being a mom of not only one, but now two.
Yeah.
Also school.
Yeah.
Is a big thing. And just learning how to manage my time a lot better was really needed this year.
Yeah.
So, well, I should say last year. So it's been a pretty rough patch.
Yeah.
In a way, but it was good overall.
Yeah, it is definitely a busy season when you have those kids at home and trying to manage just when they're little, they need a lot of attention.
Kids who are super adorable.
Yeah, they are.
Thank you.
For sure. And then, like you said, being in school, doing your master's program, and then doing your internship, and all the things that you're doing, it's a lot to manage.
That's a lot to balance. I've learned that balancing is a really big thing, and I also learned a lot of patience with myself.
Yeah.
Became really big for me last year. That's so I'm definitely going to take that into this year.
Oh, that's good. Learning some good skills to help you continue forward. So that kind of makes me think of what we're going to be talking about today on the podcast, which is really those new beginnings. And I think often at the end of a year and the beginning of the new year, we tend to start thinking about what is a new beginnings, fresh starts, like, I don't know. There's something about New Year's that makes us kind of pause and think about, this is new. This is different. It's fresh. It's a change.
Yeah. I think at the end of the year, it always just feels like the end of a season. You're wrapping up the holidays. You're wrapping up all the things that kept you really busy right before the end of the year. And so I like to take time, like you were saying, at the end of the year to reflect.
Yeah.
that's always really helpful for me, just to see where I've grown, see what I want to continue with this year, like what I want to not continue.
Yeah.
Maybe into the next year as well.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that reflection is so important because I think that's how we learn.
Yeah.
When we see where we have those gaps and things we need to adjust. And I think it also gives us time to celebrate, which we're going to talk about a little bit today, hopefully, is the celebration part. It's something I know I personally forget to do sometimes, is stopping to celebrate. But it's so important. I'm good about celebrating others, not myself. So that's, like my own, like, things that I do.
It's so easy to celebrate others
Isn't
instead of
it?
yourself. Yeah. It's hard to focus on yourself because you're looking at all the negatives, like you brought up. When I reflected in my new year, I looked at things that I don't want to bring into the new year. So it's easy to
It is.
be hard on yourself and
see where we fail instead of where we're succeeding. I think also when we think about fresh starts, there is something that can give us hope when we think about, man, this is a new, I mean, even if it's just not a new year, can you guys think of other times where there's been like a new beginning or a fresh start where it gave you hope?
Oh, for sure. I guess when I first started school, I was actually going to med school, practicing for med school.
Yeah.
And I got a slam in the face, and biology and chemistry was not my strengths of school. And you need that in order to go to med school. So taking that time to step back and figure out what it is I want to do and actually process that and being patient with myself was very difficult, but it was needed.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it gives you that time to kind of challenge and think through where you're at and be able to say, okay, it is okay for me to start again. And it gave you a renewed focus, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. How about you, Taylor? Can you think of anything?
We moved in 2022, and that was, we moved as a result of conflict. So that was a really tough decision, but now that we're further along in that move, I guess, I don't know how else to say that, we can look back and see how important it was that we actually got out of the space we were in and are in the space we're in now. And
yeah. So you were able to learn from that experience, and it sounds like that change, that new beginning, gave you a new perspective.
Yeah,
to some extent.
Yeah. It definitely helps with perspective, because I was pretty reluctant to move at first. And now seeing where we're at in 2024, and by we I mean my husband and I, I'm really grateful for that change and excited about where we're at, and I feel a lot more possibility from it. But there was just a season of stepping into that move, stepping into that change, and sitting where we were at and just staying like right there, because I like to move constantly, and not physically, but just like be on the move constantly. And when we
active,
and so when we moved from where we were, all of that changed because we didn't have the relationships we had before. We weren't able to do some of the activities we'd like to do before, and so getting into that rhythm again and being able to pace myself with that was really helpful.
It's interesting that you talk about that, because it makes me think about the importance of rest or reset, right? Because when we do those things, it does cause us in a place of slowing down and just resting and being still sometimes. Sometimes it's not where we want to be. We don't want to rest. We don't want to be still, but we keep pushing forward. But sometimes God just gives us space where that's all we have choice to do. And so there is a benefit to that reset. According to Psychology Today, there's some research that's been done where it shows that it helps increase our well-being. So it increases who we are. It helps us, our performance will increase. And then when we have those resets, we're also able to focus on our goals a little bit more. And so when you think about those resets that you've had, how has that affected goals maybe that you've had in the past? Like moving forward with them?
I would say less burnout. Because, like you said, if we don't take that break and we keep moving, what we're trying to accomplish, we may be doing more harm than good to not only ourselves but others around us. So having that reset is very important. Or you might just fall into a trap that it's really hard to get out of.
Because I think we can all fall prey into that, where we just feel like we just got to keep going. And that's really contrary to what we know Scripture teaches us, which is to have that regular cadence of rest. Right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Chloe, about how rest can prevent burnout, or, that burnout feeling. And I know that when I get rest and recharge, I always perform better in whatever I'm doing versus when I don't. And I can always tell a difference. And then even with that, I'm wired to go, go, go. So I still don't always take rest when I should.
Well, that's funny that you say that you don't take rest as you should, because I think sometimes when we think about rest, we let other people define what rest should look like. And I think for each person, our cadence of rest is different. Because God gives us each a different ability, different capacity of movement, or like you said, your personality, your character, your abilities is that you're a person of action, a person of movement. Other people have a cadence of they need more rest, more of a different rhythm. And neither is wrong. It's just we have to recognize, what does rest look like for that person? But I think we still have to make sure, I think probably even more so for the person who has the active personality style, because I'm the same way. You both know that about me. And so being more intentional with that rest or that reset. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, that's a good point about rest looking different for everyone, because I think about that when I go do things on the weekend after working or doing something like outside of work at my church or anything like that, and just being constantly on the go. And then I'll make plans for the weekend, but I don't really feel exhausted after that. I usually feel recharged depending on what I do. If I'm with a group of people or doing an activity like that, that's kind of refreshing to me. So that's not always how I rest, but I do think that is a way that I get rest. That's not
definitely
typical.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, especially if you think about self-care, a lot of people think of, go to the spa, have a bubble bath. But that's not always what that person may need. It could be reading a book. It could be meditating for about 10 minutes once a week or twice a week. So like Anne said, it depends on the person, and it's not a universal description of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think we have to pay attention to how we're all wired. I think Taylor brought up a good point a second ago too, is that why we're in these rhythms of rest or reset, it can have the probability or proclivity for us to increase our community. Our community can grow. I mean, Taylor kind of mentioned that, because when she's out and she's involved, she's doing things, she has opportunity to meet with people that she may not meet with when she's just at home and keeping her head down and focused and doing her thing. Our community can expand through that reset. Also, it helps us, we sometimes connect with people who are like-minded in our goal set that we're trying to do. I think of the work we do here at Peace Restored, just in like support groups. Sometimes people come together and they're looking for a way to kind of reset or a new beginning. And when they build that community, it really helps them to move forward.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of people having community. I think it's really, really important. I think it's important to have community, not just with like-minded people, but also people who maybe don't agree with viewpoints that you have. I think it's just helpful. It helps you grow as a person.
Yeah, for
Seeing
sure.
new perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you think about community, what's a word that comes to mind for both of you?
People.
People.
Well, I think I have to pick a different word.
Yeah, okay. That would be helpful, yeah.
Intentional.
Intentional. Oh, that's good. Tell me more about that.
So I I think what really comes to mind for me with community is I desire community. I think it's really important, but I don't naturally build community. And so I have to be very intentional about building community and connecting with people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. So I think it kind of, what I'm hearing you say, it's going back to, we have to know ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to know what we need, because there are some people who are more extroverted to where, man, their community is like so big, like they don't know a stranger. And so community comes very natural to them. But there's others of us who community can be a little more challenging. And so knowing who you are and knowing where you have to put that intentional effort in is really important, because it helps during this reset. When we're in that season of reset, it can really draw in these different positive components. So as we're continuing to kind of think about new beginnings, I think it's important for us to talk about strategies. How can we like practically do these things? Like, how can we have new beginnings? And I think about every year on January 1st, what does everybody do?
Set goals.
Set goals. Yeah. What are they? We call them, we often call them what? Like New Year resolutions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to set my resolutions. And I don't remember. I heard a statistic not too long ago about how often those fail. And I think it just takes like a couple, I think it's within the first few weeks of the year, people drop off of them. But why do you think people want to set resolutions, and why do you think we might not do well at them?
I think it's a societal or a cultural pressure.
Yeah.
As it's kind of like a tradition now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Saying, hey, you have to set a goal for yourself.
Right.
In the new
what are you
year.
going to do? Yeah. New year,
Because everyone
new
else is doing it,
Yeah.
So I think that it's just accumulating pressure on people that's not needed.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think social media adds to that pressure too.
Yeah, people post.
Yeah, seeing what their goals are.
Yeah.
I think for some people it helps keep them accountable when they post to social media or something like that. But then I think like how even at the end of the year you see highlight reels for everyone, and then with posting resolutions you see everyone post those, and so you want to be part of that. I think it's also a desire, like I think part of that is our desire to have community, because even if we talk about how we don't want it, we're built for community, we're designed for it. And social media, sometimes people use that as a way to get it, even though it's not true community a lot of the time. So,
Yeah. And so we can tend to, at the beginning of every year, just want to set those resolutions. We set these goals. And then, like we talked about, they fall off, and we're like, and then you get frustrated, you get really discontent with yourself. Some might, I don't know, beat themselves up. Like, what's the point of resolutions, right? And then we think it's either our fault or the resolution's fault.
Yeah.
Why do you, as we think about kind of the word fail in resolutions, when we think about that, when people fail, we'll put that kind of in quotes, on their resolution, why do you think they might do that or have that happen?
Well, it goes back to what we were discussing earlier about us doing things for ourselves, the self-care. So this resolution that you made, did you make it for yourself, or did you make it because, what Taylor said, social media?
Right.
So that's the question that you should be asking yourself. Is this for me, or is it for everyone around me to see and congratulate me?
Right. So what's the intent behind the resolution? Is it just to have a resolution? I did the thing, look at me, woohoo. Or is there a purpose behind it, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Then I think along with that is people don't set realistic expectations for themselves. So it's like people are like, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. Well, if you haven't been doing that, you're probably not going to do that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You can't just go from nothing to everything, right? Like, I was sitting on the couch eating chocolate every day and ice cream every day, and I haven't exercised in 6 months, but January 1, I'm going to eat salads every day and I'm going to exercise for 1 hour each day. You know, and I say that kind of in jest, but many times people do that, right? And I think, I don't know about you guys, but I know I've been guilty of trying to set these really high goals. And the reason why we often fail at them is because we set goals that don't fit with really who we are.
Yeah.
They don't go back. They don't resonate with our values. They don't, we kind of worked on this as a staff this year is this in 2023, but it's, we need going back to what is the why behind your goal? What's the purpose? Because if you don't know what your why is, then
it's a lot harder to be motivated.
Right. Like we just stick with weight loss, right? Because it's often, that's the big one everybody does. And January 1, everybody's going to lose weight. Like everybody,
Everybody's at the gym.
Everybody's at the gym, right?
Yep.
But why are you at the gym? Why do you need to lose weight? Is it, if your goal or your purpose is because I want to be skinnier, okay, but is that deep enough? Is that deep enough to keep you motivated? And I think sometimes we got to drill down that why. Like, why do you need to be skinnier? Is it to impress others? Well, does that really fit with your values? Or is it because you're trying to be healthier because you've seen the impact of weight on other people that you love and care about? And you've seen how it's detrimentally affected them. And you want to make a change for yourself and be an example for others. Now, when you get down to that why feels a little more powerful than because I want to look good, right? And so it's drilling down that why I think is really important. Often when we set goals, we kind of stop at that top level or that surface level of goal setting. And then we just go, well, I set my goal. I know I need to do it. Fitness is good. So therefore that's my why. Well, maybe you need to drill it down. So that's what I would say is we kind of got to drill down our goals. I think another thing that we miss out when we set goals, another strategy we can use for those new beginnings is accountability. And that's something, again, in the therapeutic world we talk about a lot is accountability because it's really important to be able to meet our goals, meet our objectives. When you guys think about accountability, what are some ways that you think you could use accountability, benefits of it? Just what kind of thoughts come up when you think about it?
Well, the first thing that pops up in my head with accountabilities is boundaries. So your personal beliefs are boundaries you have to keep within yourself and hold true to yourself. And if you're not doing that, could you consider yourself being accountable?
Okay. That's good.
So that's one accountability that's really big to me.
That's really good. So knowing who you are, knowing what your limitations are.
Right.
Because it's really hard to be accountable for something if you don't know where the parameters are. Yeah, because how can you be held accountable for something if you don't know what you're asking to be held accountable to? It's good.
Yeah, it is good. I don't know that I think of accountability outside of like someone else holding me accountable, but I think recently I've learned to hold myself accountable and not just rely on other people to hold me accountable. And I do think having other people hold you accountable is helpful, like just to stick to the workout thing. I think it's always easier when you have someone doing that with you.
For
You
sure.
have that accountability and you almost think like, I don't want to disappoint this person. And you might not even be disappointing them, but you're still going to feel a little bit of that, and it helps you stick to your goals.
Yeah. So it is good, right? Because when we have that community around us, it kind of goes back to community and accountability. I think kind of go hand in hand. We have those around us. It makes us more prone. We have a higher probability of accomplishing our goals, like Taylor was saying, because we have someone there cheering us along. I mean, I kind of think about, it's really an accountability, but it's an example that popped in my head. I don't know if it's a good example, but I'm going to go ahead and share it. But I think about sports teams. If they didn't have fans, in a way, their fans are their accountability. Because if they didn't have a fan base, what would propel them to work harder, to do better, if nobody ever saw them play?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They would just, they would play, but if it was just the same group of people all the time, they may not be as good as they are.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's the same thing with us individually. We have to have people cheering us along. But as we continue to talk about strategies, I think growth is another one that we can do that. With growth, when we're growing and learning new things and moving forward, it also helps us kind of stop and the door open. There you go. Give it a pause. And but with growth, but we can have areas of growth, because growth, when we're growing, it helps us to really align with our values and our purpose, and say, how does this reset, these goals, help us move towards who we are, and who God's designed us to be, what our purpose is. How is it moving us towards that? Because I think we keep going back to the weight loss example. We can even use that. Like, how does that weight loss example, what's the how really behind that?
Right.
What is that? How is that moving us towards that purpose? Because even weight loss can take us towards who it is we're designed to be. So if we go back to that example, I'm overweight, I need to lose weight. But if God's called me to do whatever it is, right?
Right.
And I can't physically do that anymore,
Yeah.
right? Then I can't achieve my purpose. So now it builds into my goal even more. It builds and makes that goal stronger.
Yeah. And I think as you start achieving your goals, you'll start to feel better about yourself. And the more little goals you achieve, the easier it is to continue on those goals. And I think one thing that is a really hard concept, but it's setting small goals that help you grow along the way. Like, I have this one big goal up here, and then, like we were all saying, like, break it down into very small goals that are achievable, and you can see results pretty quickly, because seeing those results, it makes you happy. And then it helps you keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Taylor, especially with the goal of weight loss. Social media, like you said earlier, we see the before and we see the after picture, but we don't see what's going on in between.
Yeah.
And that's really big, because when we set a goal, we're looking at the future. We're not really looking at the hard work that is going to be needed to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
That's good. I love how you were talking about, Taylor, how as we meet our goals and we kind of, as we're working towards our goal and we're accomplishing different kind of points along the way, we're having these milestone accomplishments. It builds that kind of sense of excitement of I'm moving towards the goal. It builds your encouragement. It just really helps you. I think it also, when we continue to meet those goals and objectives over time, it builds our resiliency over time, because then we know that we can do it. So if we think back on things that we've tried to do in the past, that, man, we just couldn't get it done. We couldn't, we failed at our goal. Once we start seeing success in that goal, moving towards it, we now become more resilient. We say, oh, I can do that.
Yep.
I have confidence. I can move towards that, instead of continue to kind of fall back.
Yeah. So a lot of consistency.
Yeah. Yeah, it builds consistency with resiliency, and consistency kind of build off each other, don't they? So when you guys think about resiliency, have you seen that play out in your own lives or people around you, and how that's built as they've seen successes, how it's built either yours or someone else's resiliency to continue to move forward towards their long-term goals?
Well, I think Chloe shared an example earlier about that, with going for medical school and then completely changing career paths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was resilient.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it that way, but
Yeah. But as you saw
Yeah.
success, and you just continue to build that muscle, if you will. Yeah, it's really good. And then as we're getting to kind of the end of our conversation, it makes me think about the one thing that, like I said in the beginning, that I'm not good at always doing for myself, which is stopping to celebrate those milestones. Something little I've done this year, which is silly, but little, but it's, speaking of which, is on my watch. I, we all have these watches that we wear that, track our steps and everything. And so, my watch has a setting to where it's like supposed to be like your ultimate goal for the day of number of steps.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, I took it down to like my minimum goal. So throughout the day, I'm getting like these little mini like, congratulations, you met your goal. And so it's like mine's like set at 500 steps. So every time I take 500 steps, my watch congratulates me on my moving. And so it's reminding me to stop and celebrate. And so I've been kind of being a little silly about it this year. My daughter and I have been, there's been a couple times we're together and, like we'll be doing something and we'll get to, and my watch will go off like a couple times in a row where we're together and we'll stop and we'll start dancing or something together. But it's that fun of, it's that celebrating. It's like, okay, it brings a joy to it instead of it being, man, this is just drudgery, something I have to do. Yeah. What are some things that you guys do to celebrate your accomplishments when you're working towards goals?
Ooh,
that's a good question.
That's a really good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know before I got married and had children, the way my parents would celebrate if I got like good grades. Mm-hmm. I got out of the grade. That was the celebration.
Yeah.
I passed the class.
Yeah.
We would go on trips.
Oh, wow. That's pretty great.
It would be either Disney or we would go like somewhere overseas. Mm-hmm. And I would just be really happy about that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I did this and I got a reward. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't have to be something extravagant as a trip. I'm not telling everyone to go out of their way and go on a really big, fancy, extravagant trip. But that was the way that my parents celebrated me, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it could be something little like fake fireworks going off on your watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you could celebrate like that. Yeah,
yes.
So it could be either, so it goes back to what we've been saying this whole time is you have to know what it is that you need individually. Mm-hmm. What motivates you, what excites you. Not everybody. Some people will find that really lame. Of me using, and that's fine, right? But for me right now, in the place I'm at, it is motivating me. It is a place for me to celebrate. And so everybody needs different things for celebration. When you think about your life or people you've seen around you, Taylor, are there things that you've seen that have worked well in the celebration of milestones?
Well, I'm not very good at it either. My husband is a lot better at it than me. And so, and sometimes like I don't think something is a big deal that I've accomplished. And he usually makes it a point. He'll be like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, for what? Yeah. But it is an accomplishment, and it's helpful that he's there to help me recognize really that it's an accomplishment. So and ours are not trips. So a lot of times it's dinner or just something we've been like wanting to go do out in the city and stuff. But yeah,
that's really good. So you have an accountability partner that helps build in celebration milestones. That's really kind of great.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's really good. It is, because a lot of times we do have those people around us that cheer us on, that celebrate with us, that help us. So I think those are really important things as we're kind of thinking about new beginnings this year. How can we start new beginnings? How can we move towards whatever our new goal is? I think one of the things I would just say is that as I'm thinking through this is it's really important to be specific with your goal. Make sure you write it down, however you do that, whether it's on your phone, whatever. Don't just say I'm going to do a thing. So you have to drill down to those whys and how are you going to get there and really tie it back to things we're talking about because that's where you're going to find your success.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you'd like to, what would be your closing words of advice on setting goals and new beginnings, if you have any?
Oh, it just got deep.
Don't beat yourself up.
Oh, that's really good.
Don't beat yourself up if you don't meet your own expectation. I think even if you don't meet the expectation you set, you can still break it down like we were talking about, even if you didn't before, and see, well, I didn't accomplish this, but I'm this much closer to it because I did these things. And I think you can turn it into a positive way to look at it. So don't beat yourself up.
That's good.
So going off what you said, Taylor, it's like basically setting limitations for yourself. Like if I get this amount of work done, I need to be okay and happy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I'm just, as I'm listening to you guys talk, the thing that popped in my head is, one, we serve a God of new beginnings. He is constantly giving us measure and space to start again. I think to think about when we're stepping into new beginnings is to minimize the shame. Often when we have, we're setting a goal, we want to sit in a space of shaming ourselves. It's not, we should have done this before, the shoulda, woulda, couldas.
Right.
And so I think that's giving ourselves grace and space to make those changes of what we need to do, and just doing them at the cadence that's appropriate for us.
Well, what you were saying makes me think of what we do at Peace Restored with our clients, and just the space that they come into, because a lot of times they're overwhelmed, and a lot of times they're so overwhelmed and they're just, torn down. They want to get to the next step so quickly, and you can't do that. You have to sit in the uncomfortable space, and it's important to do that.
Yeah. Well, then that takes me to what I want to kind of close this with today, is a quote from Psychology Today. And it says, in our pressure time world, too often we jump from one task to another without taking the time to acknowledge, let alone celebrate, what we have accomplished. By failing to celebrate our successes and focus on our new goals, we inadvertently dampen our enthusiasm for what comes next. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that just happened.
Don't mind that.
All right. Anyways,